This is Fox 9 News at 11.
Now on Fox 9 News at 11, will we see high school football and volleyball this fall? The State High School League is meeting right now. And details are emerging about funeral plans for the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg as the back and forth over her vacant seat grows louder. Plus, a local musician in perfect harmony with nature. Why he's serenading visitors at a state park. Fox 9 starts right now. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. So good to have you along. I'm Tom Butler. It is a big decision for two high school sports. The Minnesota State High School League is meeting right now and will vote on whether football and volleyball can be played this fall. Our Bill Keller has the latest on this decision.
Yeah, the pandemic has not only changed the way students learn, but also the way they play. So far this year, there have been no Friday night lights at high schools across the state, but that is about to change. This morning, the High School League's Board of Directors is holding a special meeting to decide the fate of fall sports, debating whether to reverse its earlier decision to push back fall sports until next spring over concerns of COVID-19. Last week, the league heard from state health officials on the risks of holding a regular football season. Ultimately, they'll have to decide if they want to change course and allow football and volleyball to be played in the next couple of weeks, following complaints from parents and student athletes. In a survey to member schools, 80% were in favor of football this fall. 76% thought volleyball should be played. As for whether it's safe for students to resume competing, the chair of the league's Sports Medicine Advisory Committee said there is really not enough complete data to go on, but that his recommendations to hold off until next spring have not changed. After a short recess, the board continues to debate, but the executive director was non-committal on a recommendation whether to move up the timeline or leave things pushed back until spring. Bill Keller, Fox 9.
This morning, tributes for late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg are continuing across the country, including right here in the Twin Cities. The mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul declaring today Ruth Bader Ginsburg Day in the Twin Cities. Mayors Jacob Fry and Melvin Carter issued a joint proclamation last night recognizing several of Ginsburg's landmark rulings on the bench, upholding the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Fair Housing Act. They also highlighted her work to improve gender equality and called for her last wish to be honored and her replacement be chosen by, quote, a president whose commitment to justice and human rights reflects her own. President Trump says he is considering nominating another woman to fill Ginsburg's seat and plans to announce a name in a matter of days. However, two Republican senators say they want to wait to nominate for someone who were after the position of the election after the president is elected. Political experts say this process takes a while, and it's not clear if the Senate will be able to finish the process before Election Day.
Typically, from the time a president nominates to where they do the background checks on Supreme Court nominees, let us say security checks and a whole bunch of other things, it takes several months. So that it's going to be pretty hard between now and Election Day, November 3rd, to actually do a hearing.
Regardless of who wins the election, President Trump will be in office until January, which could be enough time for the Republican majority Senate to push through the vote. They have a 4-seat majority, so two more Republicans would need to flip in order to block an appointment by President Trump. This morning, President Trump saying he expects to announce his pick for Ginsburg's replacement either this Friday or Saturday.
We want to pay respect. It looks like we will have probably services on Thursday or Friday, as I understand it. I think, due respect, we should wait till the services are over for Justice Ginsburg.
President also saying he currently has a list of 5 possible picks. There are 2 names, though, topping the list. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is 48-year-old and a mother of 7 from Indiana, and Judge Barbara Lagoa is 52 years old and a Cuban-American from Florida. Her parents fled the Castro regime 5 decades ago. The New York Times reports her body will lie in state, that is Ginsburg, at the Supreme Court building for 2 days. Justice Ginsburg will be buried at Arlington National Cemetery later this week. More than a dozen protesters demonstrating outside of the U.S. Supreme Court this morning. The protesters are demanding the next president appoint a successor for the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The group marched from the D.C. home of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham to the steps of the Supreme Court. Ginsburg died on last Friday. Cancer was the cause at the age of 87. Today, the presidential campaign is back in the Midwest. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is campaigning in northeast Wisconsin. Biden's campaign says that they will make a stop in Manawak, which is about 80 miles north of Milwaukee. It will be his second visit to the state in 2 weeks. And Vice President, Mike Pence will also return to the Midwest this week. Pence will start his Thursday visit at a manufacturing company in Eau Claire before traveling to Minneapolis to meet with a pro-Trump law enforcement group. The CDC says it now has proof wearing masks and social distancing can help stop the spread of COVID-19 and the seasonal flu, but the virus won't be fully contained until there is a vaccine widely available, and there are a wide range of opinions on when that will happen. Fox's Steve Harrigan has more from Atlanta.
We're about to reach the 200,000 death mark due to COVID, and that's a terrible, terrible thing.
It's a grim milestone underscoring the continuing struggle to contain the coronavirus. Overall, infections are down, though we are still seeing some spikes, mainly in the West. But deaths are surging. Public health officials say the outbreak will not be fully contained until a vaccine is widely available. In an exclusive interview, Bill Gates tells Fox News that likely will not happen until mid-2021.
End of the epidemic, best case is probably 2022, but during 2021, the numbers, we should be able to drive them down if we take the global approach.
Moderna, a leading U.S. candidate, says it is on track to produce 20 million doses of its vaccine by the end of the year, with a goal of at least 500 million doses in 2021. But they are still having trouble recruiting Black, Hispanic, and Asian American volunteers for their large-scale trial.
We really do want, a wide swath of ages, races, ethnicities. It's really important that this vaccine work for everyone.
Meanwhile, the CDC says early data from this year's flu season shows low infection rates, which they say confirms masks and social distancing can help slow the spread of both COVID and the flu.
A lot of it relies on the cooperation of the general public. Are people, continuing to wear their masks?
Finally, the UN General Assembly this week will be virtual due to the pandemic to try to minimize the risk to world leaders. In Atlanta, Steve Harrigan, Fox 9.
That sound continued another 199 times Sunday, once for every 1,000 lives lost due to COVID-19. The Washington National Cathedral tolling the Bourbon Bell in honor of Americans who have died during the pandemic. There's a hunger crisis in Minnesota as local food banks say they are serving more people now than they did during the recession. Second Harvest Heartland, the largest food bank in the state, says it's distributing more than double the amount of food they did at this time last year. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Food Helpline says in the last 2 months, it has received up to 7 times the amount of calls. And Second Harvest says it expects things to get worse before they get better.
We're seeing hunger unlike anything we've seen since the Great Depression. It's double what we saw in the Great Recession of 2008 to 2010.
Second Harvest believes up to 40% of their current clients are getting food assistance for the very first time. So much more ahead here on the Fox 9 News at 11. They've run out of the alphabet for name storms. Now it is on to Greek names. Just how much rain Beta is expected to soak Texas with. And bring in the Marines, how they're now helping in those growing wildfires out in California. Plus, Alex, it's our last full day of summer.
I know, can you believe it? Fall is already here and it just feels like 2020 started. Haha, just kidding. 68 degrees the current temperature. We're on our way up to the upper 70s out there. I'll break down how long this summer-like weather's sticking around coming up after the break.